Kira, hello and welcome everyone to our talk, Intent-Based Approach to Detect Email Account Compromise. I'll start with a quick introduction. My name is Fahim Abbasi. I'm a senior research scientist at Cisco. I'm part of the Talos email threat research team. I'm based in New Zealand, Auckland, New Zealand, so I flew in from Middle-earth to be with you guys. And my research interest is in developing smart algorithms to detect business email compromise, phishing, and scams. Other than that, I've published various patents, blogs, and academic research papers. Next, I would like to introduce my co-author, Abhishek. Abhishek unfortunately could not join us today. Abhishek has a wealth of experience leading research and development teams at Cisco, Microsoft, and FireEye. He has received various accolades and awards and has published a ton load of patents. Right, so let's start with introducing what email account compromise is. Email account compromise is a highly sophisticated threat affecting businesses globally. In email account compromise, threat actors gain unauthorized access to email by leveraging a variety of techniques. It could be social engineering, malware, password cracking, what have you. Once compromised, the threat actor tries to target employees within the organization or other vendors, customers, or even the personal contacts of that particular account. In the case of email account compromise, there are always two victims at least. One victim is the person whose account did get compromised, and the other person is the person who received an email lure from that compromised account, thus leveraging the trust of the employee whose account got compromised into getting scammed further. Looking at the goal of the threat actor is to become you, become the account owner, and use your credibility within the organization to steal money or steal personal information, or to harvest further information from within the organization, and of course to stay within the organization as long as possible. Right, so let's look at a quick difference between what BEC, business email compromise, is and what email account compromise is. In case of a BEC, it's a type of an attack that targets businesses, whereas an EAC is any unauthorized account or any unauthorized access to any mailbox. In BEC, the scammers impersonate a trusted individual within the organization, and in EAC, the threat actor becomes the individual within the organization. BEC is a conversational payload. So the threat actors, they leverage conversations or conversational payload to ask for simple things like, can you please transfer money? Can you give me a gift card? Or can you change my payroll information? Things like that. In case of email account compromise, the threat actors leverage compromised corporate accounts to send phishing, scam, BEC, both internally within the organization, to employees within the organization, and to customers and business partners, etc. With BEC, the goal is to trick employees into sending money or sensitive information. With EAC, the goal is beyond just that. So it's also harvesting credentials via phishing, or getting information via scam, or could be BEC as well, and of course maintaining persistence. From a secure email gateway perspective, particularly from a detection perspective, EAC has certain challenges. Like most SCGs do not scan internal email, and in most cases, most of the defenses, they are deployed at the perimeter, looking for north-south traffic only. Also, a lot of SCGs, they do not have internal scanning on by default, and do not have auditing on by default as well. So that's an interesting challenge. So emails from a compromised account either are challenging to detect. Why? Because they are originating from legit employees who are authorized and authenticated employees of the organization. The headers are legit, so if you have any header checks, they're looking for certain things in the from address or the subject or something, then yeah, it just gets bypassed. Similarly, you have authentication controls within the organization, within your secure email gateway. They get bypassed because it's coming from a legit source, has the right SPF, DKIM, DMARCs and stuff. Then again, the email is sent to internal employees to move laterally or outbound to other business partners and customers. So at a very high level, we can categorize the detection techniques to detect email account compromise into two main, you can say, areas or two main types. We have techniques that involve detecting email account compromise by looking at the email itself, and one technique does not need to look at the email. So the technique that does not involve email analysis looks at anomalies in Office 365 login attempts. What we do is we look for things like change in the geography of the person who's connecting to the O365 login, to look at changes in his user agent and stuff like that. When it comes to analyzing emails, then there are a couple of approaches. One of the approaches is our proposed approach, so intent-based approach to detect email account compromise, where we try to get the intent of the attacker by looking at the suspicious intents in terms of emails being sent. So look at those suspicious traits inside emails and then isolate those emails for further investigation. The further investigation involves creating behavior profiles of the user and comparing the past behavior profile with the current behavior profile and trying to determine whether the account is compromised or not. Another approach that could be is to look at retrospective verdicts from phishing URLs. So if we know that a certain URL is a phishing URL, then what we do is we look at compare it with the secure web gateway logs and try to determine whether one of our employees actually clicked on that link. And if he did, then most possibly he's a target of most possibly that account got compromised. Next, let's focus on intent-based approach to detect email account compromise. So what is intent, right? Intent is the objective behind any action. So what we try to do is to understand the intent of the threat actor to help us understand how and unveil basically a compromised account. Right, so here's the architecture diagram of our proposed system. This is an intent-based approach. So as you can see, there are a lot of boxes. I'll try to quickly walk through the boxes and then we'll go in details. So first up, I don't know if you can see my mouse. Yeah, you can. So first up, we have the Prefilter engine. The job of the Prefilter engine is to look for traits within the email, for phishing traits, BEC traits, or scam traits in general, and isolate those emails to send for further investigation to the Retrospective Behavior engine. The Retrospective Behavior engine makes up these blocks over here. What it does, in short, in summary, is that it looks in the past 90 days, looks through metadata of the past 90 days. For example, we have a suspicious user, John Doe, and says, what did John Doe do in the last 90 days? Which IPs has John Doe been using to send out emails? Which employees has he been talking to? What kind of conversations were they? And any other statistics associated with that. And with that information, then we correlate that information here in the verdict engine that gives us a final verdict by correlating all the signals from these various systems. Focusing on the Prefilter, the objective of the Prefilter is to filter suspicious emails from internal and outbound traffic for further investigation. So what we do is that we leverage a natural language processing based technique. We have data sets of phishing, scam, and BEC. We run an n-gram analysis, could be a 3-gram, 4-gram, 5-gram, depending on the need. And then we look for certain key phrases or keywords that were being used within those emails, and then take out those things to use as filters for filtering out suspicious behavior. Some of these pre-filters are shown over here. So for example, in the case of BEC, it's asking to update the payroll information. In the case of scam, it's like a whole variety of scams. We have scams that are asking for sending money, or scams that are simply asking for investing in a business opportunity, or it could be any form of advanced fee scam. For phishing, it's the usual. Please update, verify, validate your O365 account, and in simple strings, variations and permutations of those strings. Right, so another function of the Prefilter is to fine-tune is to regulate the volume of the emails that are sent to the secondary system. And the way we do that is that we fine-tune the Prefilter to just only give us the most suspicious emails that it thinks that are most highly suspicious. So as an example, in 20 million email data set of one day of email, we get around 4,000 messages that are sent for further investigation, which is a very small percentage, right? Right, so now getting into the retrospective behavior engine. Remember, this engine looks at the user's past 90-day traffic and pulls out information that we need and sends it to the various subsystems. In this case, we have the IP analyzer. It's not showing anything, sorry. We have the IP analyzer over here that gets IP information from the last 90 days for this particular user. The IP analyzer has a bunch of components associated with it. So let's just go through that. The first component is I call it the EAC IP or the IP profiler. What it does is that it compares a 3-tuple based on the IP information, the country information, and the subdivision information of the sender's IP, and compares it with all the historical IPs and sees whether there's a comparison between them. If it's, we use Jaccard similarity to do the calculations. If it's benign, then it's fine. It gives a score of 1. If it's malicious, then it's more towards 0, suggesting that the IP has changed or the geography has changed to some extent. We also do a simple lookup in suspicious country list or a block list to see whether that sender's IP is part of any of these. This also generates a signal. We also have our own anomaly detection algorithm that we use to see whether there's an anomaly in the IPs that are coming up. Another function is the too fast, too soon algorithm. The job of the too fast, too soon algorithm is to look whether the IPs are fluxing too fast between, the sender's IP is changing too fast between 2 subsequent emails or multiple subsequent emails, the IPs is fluxing or not. So what we'll do is that we'll look at these, some of these subsystems in detail. For example, the IP anomaly detection algorithm's job is to detect anomalies in sender's IP. It does that by clustering IP information based on the last 90-day traffic. Suspicious IPs not matching these clusters are considered an anomaly. This is a unique approach in the sense that it uses IP information, country code, and ASN as features. We use an unsupervised learning algorithm, GMM, for building the clusters and doing the outlier detection. So let's take an example. Then again, we have John Doe over here, who was one of the suspicious users. We did the retrospective lookup and pull down the last 90-day metadata, especially the IP address in this case, and gave it to our algorithm. The algorithm created 3 clusters. These clusters, each cluster has a bunch of IPs in it, as can be seen here. Then what happens is that we test the sender's IP of the email detected today with these clusters, whether that IP is matching any of these clusters or not. If it is, that's good. If it's not, that's a problem. We consider that as an anomaly. The job of the too fast, too soon algorithm is to detect if email senders' IPs are changing too fast. It also relies on a bunch of functions. So one of the function is the fast function, we call it. The fast function calculates the time that is required to log in between two changing IP addresses, two changing geographies. So if I'm here in London and all of a sudden I'm connecting from New Zealand, then it takes at least a 24-hour flight to reach there. So if I'm logging in the next 10 minutes, then definitely that's a problem. And if it's not part of the ASN as well, then that's one of the issues. We also look at the distance. So if the changing IPs have a certain distance or not. So the final criteria is a combination of these 3. So we take these 3 signals, combine them, and say that, yeah, the too fast, too soon algorithm has triggered or not triggered. Next up, we have the recipient analyzer of the part of the retrospective behavior engine. The job of the recipient analyzer is to build a relationship graph. And the way we do it is that we collect the last 90-day recipient information. We look at the to address, the CC address, and the BCC address of all the sender's conversation. So if the sender is sending email to a lot of people, then we have them as recipients and build a relationship graph out of that. And next, what we do is that we compare that relationship graph with the email seen today. So if today's email also has like 10 people that are CC'd or BCC'd, so that relationship graph would be of 10 people. And a comparison of these tells us if there's a new conversation that has happened. And in that case, we say, oh, look, he's talking to somebody new. That's kind of suspicious. So that's one of the indicators. Another thing that we look out is the change in the from display name. How many of us change our display name, right? Maybe once or twice in the whole tenure we have in the organization. So things like that are also a good indicator. Next, we'll look at sender stats component of the behavior engine. The objective of this component is to do volumetric analysis on the data that we have. We do this we profile the user's past email sending behavior and compare it with today's email sending behavior. And we do this by using very simple statistics. So it's just by, for example, looking at the number of emails that are sent today. For example, let's say 5 emails were sent today, and we take the average number of emails that were sent in the past 90 days, and we say, okay, look, this comes up with this kind of a number. And then we come up with some kind of a ratio, right? We say that today this user has sent that many times more emails as he has sent in the past. So this becomes an interesting signal that we consume. The next component is the URL Analyzer component. This component is not part of the retrospective behavior engine, but it's a standalone component that handles URLs. So if we have a suspicious email that has a URL inside it, then we will send that URL to the URL Analyzer component. The URL Analyzer component extracts all emails from the message and attempts a series of heuristics and algorithms to try to determine whether that URL is malicious or not. So first up, we remove any URL that has a domain that belongs to the Cisco umbrella top 1 million list. The domains, the URLs that are remaining, then what we do is that we look at some domain heuristics, right? We check the who is information of that particular domain, whether that domain has been recently created, or it's about to expire, has a right registrant information, or it's, what do you call this? It has a right registrant information and things like that. We also have an SSL certificate checking algorithm that basically checks the SSL certificate for that domain, whether it's about to expire, it's stolen, it's registered by a free service, things like that, very basic things. So after the domain checking heuristics, we have a bunch of suspicious URL detection techniques. So these heuristics are looking for a variety of things. So I'll try to go through each of them. So we have, we look for the presence of an email address inside a URL. So a lot of phishing emails, when you have a link in them, if you click on them, they are designed to take you to an O365 fake page, and your username is also already populated in the username box. So that username often is sent as a parameter to the URL, and it has your email address in them. In many cases, we also saw that the the email address was inside the URL was masked with simple base64 encoding. So we look for the presence of the email address in plain text or base64 encoded. We check whether the URL belongs to a file sharing service or a form building service like Google Forms, DocuSign, JotForms, etc. We look for the presence of URL shorteners or evasive features. We used to see a lot of phishing emails that had, or scam emails that had an URL embedded inside the email that was a Google redirect or a Bing redirect, so things like that. Last but not least, we have the verdict consolidation engine, which is the last part of the diagram. The job of the verdict consolidation engine is to consolidate all these signals from a variety of components and systems that I showed, and combine those signals to actually convict a message, right? So how it does that, it can use a combination of conditions. Those conditions can be implemented as an expert system, so as a human I can say, it's this, these combinations, or it could be an AI/ML system. The verdict could be either benign, suspicious, or malicious, depending on what you want to do. So let's look at one case of a compromised account in which we just go through one quick rule. So this rule is suggesting that the ratio or the amount of emails sent today are twice as many as the emails sent in the last 90 days. The EAC IP is suggesting that the geography of the user has changed. Anomaly detection has triggered. Too fast, too soon has triggered. Phishing heuristics have triggered on the URL itself. There was a redirect. The IP reputation was bad, or the IP belonged to a suspicious country. So things like this, you can see there's a lot of anding and oring between these various conditions. This comes with experience and fine-tuning that you conclude that, yeah, this is a compromised account. So next up, let's look at some EAC cases and trends. So we start with the threat actor's intent. Remember, intent is that objective that leads to an action. So in terms of complexity, we see that the threat actors are either sophisticated or unsophisticated. Sophisticated actors are more targeted, whereas unsophisticated actors are doing a spray and pray kind of a thing, cast out a wider net and try to grab stuff. In terms of attack type, we see that the attackers are either sending out a lot of scam or phishing or BEC, scam being the majority case, and a lot of scam that we see is sent out in an unsophisticated way, which was the majority case as well, followed by phishing and BEC. We see that the threat actor leveraged compromised accounts to maximize their credential and data harvesting. Let's quickly look at a sophisticated case. We have a client, say ABC School District. He has a compromised account, John Doe. This account is asking, this email is asking for money transfer. I don't know if you could see it or not, but it's asking for a change in the payroll information. And it was detected by our Prefilter. Next, we just pass it through the various components. So like the volumetric analysis suggested 10 emails were sent today. That's 14 times more emails sent in the past. The IP analyzer suggested that the sending IP belongs to some kind of a block list or has a bad reputation. It's an anomalous IP, and it's also it's not a too fast, too soon because it's more sophisticated. So it just used one IP to send the email. Another case is that of a phishing attack. So we have an IP help desk example over here. Say the client is ABC State University. Then again, we have John Doe at State University, which is a compromised account. If you look at the email, it's asking you for the usual phishing stuff with a link in it. So it was detected by our Prefilter. Next, we did the volumetric analysis, saw that 18 emails were sent today. That's 90 times more emails compared to the past. The IP analysis suggested that the IP does belong to a suspicious list and has some anomalies in it. Another interesting thing here, I don't know if it's visible. Yeah, it is. So we have this email was sent to 500 people within the organization, right? So we see that there are a lot of more conversations that have happened in this email that were not seen in the past. So many more employees and students were sent the email that were not sent in the past. So this is a mass phishing thing. And the phishing URL triggered as well. So we see this example. Looking at the phishing attack trends, especially the ones that we saw over the last 1 year, so majority of the phishing lures were sent out in a large organization, to a large organization group in a spray and pray kind of a strategy. So we see the usual stuff. So we see the O365 lures asking to terminate your account or verify your account or upgrade your account or renew your account. The same lures that we see in incoming email is very much the similar trend. But this time it's more O365 focused, I would say. We do see the odd DocuSign and SharePoints as well being used internally. And most of the phishing URLs were pointing to data collection services and form builder services, which kind of helps in the sense that it's a legit service. So if it's a Google form, then it's supposed to do that, right? So I'll share one very interesting example that we saw from a university, where it was asking the users to give their current credentials and their prior university credentials. So the the threat actors are trying to maximize their profits. So here in this box over here, they're asking for their previous university. This is a very simple Google form. The link was in the email, pointed to this landing page. It's asking for the previous university's credentials and the current university's credentials. Looking at the complexity of the phishing URL, we see that the phishing URLs had certain complexity we'll try to explain. So we saw a lot of URLs belong to form builder services, already stated that. We saw some URLs pointing to redirection services like Google redirects and Bing redirects. Some free hosting services were also used like Weebly's. URL shortening services were also used in these compromised emails coming from these compromised accounts. Quickly looking at the scam attack trends, we see that a lot of scams that we observed, majority of them were job scams. So these are sent to financially vulnerable people. In this case, majority were sent out to students and asking them to be some kind of a do some kind of a job, become a personal assistant or something. And later these students are groomed into becoming money mules or something. We also saw a lot of romance scams. That was the second big category, followed by advanced fee scams. So with the advanced fee scam, one quick example coming to mind was that fake piano request. So hey, look, I'm a student of this university. I'm moving out, so I have a free piano. Anybody wants a piano? Please contact me. The person contacts, and then he's told the piano is too big and he cannot come and pick it up. So the delivery guys will deliver it, and they ask you to pay $100, and he sends you his account quickly so that you can pay the $100 to him or $200. And you're waiting for your piano, which never comes. So these kind of simple advanced fee scams are also seen. Of course, BEC attacks are very targeted. Whenever we see BEC attacks, they're not done in a spray and pray fashion. Just the last couple of slides. So here are some examples of the job scams. The one on the right, these two, and this third one are job scams. These kind of emails then circulate within the university networks or places like that. And here's an example of a romance scam and what it looks like. Right, so we will conclude the presentation with some key takeaways. So what we've concluded was that the intent-based approach that we have here identifies both set of victims. We have the person, the employee whose account did get compromised, and we also have the employees who received the lure and are now vulnerable because it's sitting in their inbox. It's a possibility that somebody can click on it. So we have both sets, and what we can do is pull the message from the people who received the email, if we are able to detect it in the first place. But if we do, then yes, we can flag the compromised account and pull the emails from any account that received within our employees who received the email. The other key takeaway is that with each detected attempt of exploitation, we also get the intent of the attacker, right? So we know that the email that he sent was a phishing email. We know that it was a scam email or a BC email. We can, based on these, we can organize our remediation services. So we can, for example, if it's a phishing link, we can block the link. We can look at the web gateway log, see which other employees clicked on the link, and then go and do the remediation at that level. If it's somebody asking the payroll department to change their payroll information, then we can talk to the payroll department and move accordingly. And retrospectively remove any emails that were sent to internal employees. So yeah, I think I did it perhaps in 2 minutes to go. So I'd just like to acknowledge various team members who contributed and helped us in various aspects of the project. And thank you, everyone. If you have any questions.